I'm on mute. I'm sorry, I'm on mute. Uh, it's been a while, guys. It's been a while. Let me reset. So my goal today is to break down what I think is the overarching plan. Hopefully you can hear me now. Thank you. Slow motions. The overarching plan is to replenish and restock and refurbish and rebuild and then transition the American economy into a war economy. Right now, I mean, our GDP, I have to look to see what percentage of it is. A lot of it is just AI and service industry. I mean, we're not making a lot of stuff here, and even our even our agriculture is getting eaten alive right now. It's still there. It's not in the worst shape possible, but even that is like falling apart. So that's not going to be sustainable. The future is actually war. The future is getting a job somehow indirectly or directly related to war. That's what it looks like. And Donald Trump, the breaking news is that Donald Trump is unveiling this $1.5 trillion fiscal 2027 budget request. I don't think anything that we know is special. Everything we know, they know. And when I say they, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump is just the face of it. The people who are actually war gaming this out, the people who are also, and I'm not even trying to disrespect Trump with that. I'm just saying this is the people who actually make the decisions. In the Pentagon, behind the scenes, they knew that they would need to rebuild these bases. They knew Iran was going to strike these bases. There's nothing, they knew Iran was going to close the strait. There's nothing that we know that they don't know. And it all starts to make sense when you calibrate to that. If you're not already calibrated to that, because I don't know if it's just me anecdotally, I see and I kind of hear, well, oh, there's this incompetence. They didn't know. I even hear it from, kind of bigger names like Robert Barnes is who I was thinking about, kind of like, oh, it almost like they didn't know that they were going to close down the strait. No, Robert, there's nothing you know that they didn't know. They have the same tools we have, a larger budget and more. They war game it out, as many of you know. They basically just simulate out what would happen if we do this in many different simulations. They can play it out and say, in 1,000 simulations, we lose anywhere from 6 to 1,000 soldiers or whatever. They know how to war game this out. We do this. What does Iran do? What are they going to damage? Oh, shoot. They damaged the base in Kuwait. Damn. We're going to have to go to Congress and ask for a couple $100 billion to rebuild it. Damn. And that's what they wanted before the war. So I'm going to kind of walk through that. But the lead that kind of puts it all together is President Trump's plan here to lead us into this is MAGA. I'm going to even just stop saying Trump. This is the MAGA plan. The MAGA plan is to transition the American economy into a war economy. If you wonder, how are we going to continue on with AI taking jobs and things like that? We're going to have, some things are going to be automated, some things are not. But what's going to be really our bread and butter? I think the bread and butter is going to be war. It's going to be, they like this never-ending type of war. Dropping bombs, let's take a break. Dropping bombs, let's buy some AI, let's build up some data centers, let's kind of crush some free speech along the way, indirectly at least, through the social media companies and all that. The UK's doing it. And then let's do some more bombs and that's going to be the never-ending cycle. you don't really have an economy of war if you're not using the bombs. So this is not going to be something where it's going to be, oh, 2, 3 weeks, like Donald Trump said yesterday, and we're out. It'll be another country. It'll be another situation. It'll be more bombs. It'll be Russia, Ukraine. It's going to be, there's always going to be something. You see them shifting. It was, oh, we have to help Israel. And then now we have to help, oh, the Iron Dome's depleted. And then now we have to help Ukraine. And then we're going to stop with Iran, and no, Syria's acting a fool again. Oh no, we're losing Iraq again, and it's never going to stop. They even went through Somalia, and it's always going to be Libya. You can find a country, you can find poor people to bomb. That's not a problem. Even not so poor people, but usually it's the poor people that are getting the bombs and getting run up out of here. And that's going to be the cycle. If you're not using the bombs, you don't have the economy. So Donald Trump is shifting it. You're hearing the verbiage shift from, basically Donald Trump openly said, well, hey, daycare, we don't fund daycare. And the argument really isn't for the government to fund daycare or not. But the point is, you would rather fund war than daycare. That's a non-negotiable. I don't care to argue should the government fund daycare or not. That's not even the point. I would choose that over war. That's a no-brainer. And Donald Trump, literally, MAGA, literally supports funding war over daycare, which obviously can have its problems, but all things being equal, that you would rather fund healthcare, basic services, daycare, universal basic income, solving the problem of AI taking jobs, anything, potholes. I don't know what, I know usually that's a localized thing, but you can give money. That's what happened with COVID. You printed all this money and you gave it to the states and said, hey, we're helping you out for your local problems. So what's the difference between that and the pothole? So there's a lot of things. Infrastructure. What's going on with our infrastructure? They still haven't rebuilt that the bridge in Baltimore. So there's a lot you can do here instead of war. And MAGA now supports war over those things, any of those things. People will hide behind daycare, or the government shouldn't do daycare. Government shouldn't do healthcare. Well, what should the government do? Pick something over war. This is a historic pivot. And they're trying now, in a weird way, to say a defense-first economy. It's a war economy. You changed the name, remember? Department of War now. You did the executive order. They're cutting domestic programs to pay for this. They're cutting programs for veterans to pay for this, in theory at this point, but he's pushing for it. And I've been saying, well, I said, well, Donald Trump said he was going to do or push for a digital Bill of Rights. And people said, well, Donald Trump doesn't do legislation. Well, he doesn't do legislation for funding either. But he's pushing for that, isn't he? You can push for what you want. And I can, yes, absolutely. I've talked about the Somali daycares for fraud, but that doesn't change the take, though. I would still rather fund, child care for Americans than war. You don't think there's any fraud happening with the war? The government has money. The government doles out money for COVID, for, SNAP, whatever they're doing. There's always fraud. So if that's the case, then I know some people on the channel would agree, then you just get rid of the government. But that's not realistic. I'm not going down that route. But yes, I do see those problems there. But the Department of War has never passed an audit. Never. In their history. I don't know, they've done like 6 to 8 audits. Never passed one. The fraud there makes the Somali fraud look like peanuts. So this push now just came out today, cutting domestic programs for it. And the Defense Acquisition Substacks dropping today said the combination of a 1.5 trillion budget target, active combat operations against Iran, and the Golden Dome initiative creates a demand environment. So they created their own demand to push for more funding. Why do they need more funding? Because obviously they need to rebuild weapons. They're all depleted now from the Iran war and other things. They need $185 billion for the Golden Dome. So you can argue, I don't care to argue daycare funding right now. I'm happy to have that discussion, but I don't want to get too off base here. We can say zero. Let's just say, let's not fund any Golden Dome at $185 billion and just not use the money. If you don't want the daycare, that's perfectly fine. But the MAGA position is fund the war. The MAGA position is not no money for anything. So whether there's fraud or not with the daycares, it doesn't change the position that I don't know where MAGA is right now. They knew what the burn rate was going to be. They knew the bases were vulnerable. They were very vulnerable, probably on purpose, allegedly. They probably deliberately left them exposed. That's how bad it is. Allegedly. And now, right on schedule, they're using the predictable, very predictable damage to cash in the biggest check ever written to the Pentagon. And do you think anything's going to stop that? Before the war, the Department of Defense was drowning. They were struggling. There's so many Jim Rome references. Do you remember the Jim Rome reference with Joe? It was Joe Namath. I want to kiss you. I'm going off track. He has a classic clip, Joe Namath on the sideline with one of those, I forget, it was Rachel Nichols or something like that. Struggling. And he was drunk, of course. They were struggling because the facilities were getting old. They weren't being maintained, and they wanted $181 billion before the war even popped off here, just for deferred maintenance backlog. That's not to upgrade the bases. That's just to maintain the bases. So I'm trying to think of an analogy. What would it be like? It'd be like literally like me taking a hammer to my car and then telling my wife, "Oh, damn, that's messed up. The car is fucked up. Okay, we gotta get a new one." Have you seen the Cybercab coming out, or do you want to get another Y? Or how do you think? What do you think about the Cybertruck? It would be like me going to the garage right now, taking a mallet. This is what the Defense Department basically did. It's me going to the garage right now, taking a mallet to our current car because I don't want it anymore. And it still runs. It's still good. It's just a little bit older. There's no problems with it. It's a COVID car. It doesn't have a lot of miles. I mean, a little bit more now, but I mean, those COVID cars have like no miles on them. You're not going to work. Take a mallet to it. Like, damn, the car is 6 years old and it doesn't even have 50,000 on it. Man, it's going to be around for a while. I don't want it anymore, though. I don't want to, I don't want to have the full discussion. That's what the Defense Department would have to do and say, yeah, the bases are fine. There's no war going on, but we want to upgrade. That's a harder sell. Yeah, the car's fine. Yeah, I control the purse, but I don't want to hear the lip back about, oh, do we really need a car? I'm just going to take a bat and beat the shit out of the car and break the window, slash the tires, and then go outside and say, damn, that car is messed up. And have the link already filled out for the Cybertruck. That's what they did. And be like, just click here. I already spec'd it out. I already got it spec'd out. It's a little cheaper than it was when they first launched it. and we'll get it by the summertime. Just click here, order now. And me like, damn, that's messed up. And we did have some, we don't even know the true casualties, servicemen and women who actually perished. So it's pretty messed up. Pretty messed up what they did here. But I'm trying to think of an analogy. That's the analogy. And we're just gonna say yes. There is nothing that will stop it. That's the one thing they will agree on. Government shutdown over all kind of things, playing games, WWE type games. It doesn't shut down over this. They will fund that. It doesn't matter if you're AOC or I don't even know who's Lauren Boebert. So instead of fixing the bases to bring them up to where they were, basically 1990 status, is some of these haven't been updated since 1990s. They specifically took $1 billion out of Army facility sustainment, restoration, and modernization. Those are the amounts that would be needed to fix 1991 and 2002 era bases to fund the border priorities. So this is before this was from May of last year. They took $1 billion, so they knew this was going to happen. When they took that money from that, there was $1 billion. That's not. They need 180 billion. They took $1 billion out of the funding of sustainment and restoration for the bases to fix these 1991 era bases. And they took it towards the border. And what was that for? It's not for a wall. That's for sure. You're not getting the wall. They took it for the border for surveillance, more Palantir-backed software, AI, that type of thing, Chinese type spying abilities. And they took it, put it for the border, knowing they were going to, allegedly, knowing that they're going to go to war or do whatever they needed to do to get the 180. So they didn't care about it. So this was long. This was queued up, ready to go long before the war. Planners knew the opening phase of the war was going to be massively munition intensive. The military dropped almost 5,197 munitions in 96 hours. Donald Trump tells you, MAGA tells you that was for like the show of force it's peace through strength is basically what the MAGA position is. No, that's not what that was. That was me going to the garage, taking a bat. I don't want to talk this into happening. That's me going to the garage, taking a bat to the car, or whatever you do to the car. You kind of cut a wire in the car, like, damn, the car doesn't work anymore. That's what that was. They're just deplenishing the stock, and they're continuing to do it now. There is no war game that they kind of played out, scenarioed out, that said dropping bombs in Iran is going to solve anything long term. There is no long term. You can say it may unalive some of the leaders. Israel seems to be the one doing all that. So I don't know what the American bombs are doing, but you can say it's slowing things down. We just took out a bridge here today, I believe. I guess you can say it's making strategic strides, but nothing long term. When I say long term, nothing that's happening now is affecting anything 5 years down the road for Iran. There's nothing that they gamed out to do that. There's nothing that they gamed out that said 5,200, whatever these are, missiles, munitions, some of these are interceptors. There's nothing. I don't even think that counts the Iron Dome stuff. which we are asking the funding to fund the Iron Dome, keep in mind, on top of the money we already give them. And we already give them per year. And then on top of that, more money. Then on top of that, the Iron Dome. But at least AOC will get another chance to vote in favor of supplying it. There is nothing that they gamed out where 5,200 munitions were going to solve anything long term. I can guarantee you that. In 96 hours. They burned through over 850 Tomahawk missiles in roughly 4 weeks. Like that's not an accident. They did that on purpose. So if you look at it, the March 2025 annual threat assessment publicly warned that Iran had the largest regional stockpiles of UAVs and missiles. They knew the tactics. The Defense Intelligence Agency's May 2025 assessment explicitly highlighted Iran's demonstrated willingness to launch massive combined salvos of 200 to 300 missiles and drones. Much cheaper. So this was, I'll call it engineered vulnerability in the Middle East, meaning they basically took their clothes off and ran down into the middle of the hood and wanted to see what was going to happen. They did it on purpose. Going back to August of 2023, the Army doctrine explicitly required overhead cover thick enough to withstand hostile UAV drops. So we're talking about the bases over there now. Going to Kuwait, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Shuaba port. Despite the doctrine and intelligence, 6 Americans were tragically killed on March 1st. Man, it's been a month. At an operations center at Shuaba Port. The building was a makeshift triple-wide prefab trailer with a thin metal roof. That's how we honor our troops. It completely lacked overhead protection and had not been meaningfully upgraded since at least 2009. CBS News reported that the pre-war discussions flagged the trailer as concentrating too many troops in a spot not as well defended as other positions. This type of stuff needs to be investigated and I'm not going to go the route. I'm obviously not signaling Groypers or Nick. I only vote for things that I believe in, and I'm talking about Democrats. When Democrats take over power in the midterms and they're going to rape I mean, it's going to be ugly. They're going to rape like Muslims in the UK right now. They're just going to rape the Republicans, and it's the WWE. It's the same. Who cares? It's not, but they are going to probably do some of these investigations and trials, or more like hearings and stuff like that. I think this deserves a hearing just from my tertiary in looking at it, because I did work backwards. My theory was, okay, I think they knew what was going to happen. Show me evidence to that, and I'm pretty convinced. So this is reported by CBS News. Before the war, they had already said it's a trailer that's vulnerable. There's too many troops in a spot not as well defended as other positions. Ground leaders were given an explicit recommendation not to use the location. Despite a recommendation that the location should not be used, ground leaders decided to use it anyway. As a backup, just days before the war popped off. Internal requests were made right before the strike for capability. This is a scandal. This is a whole different side mission scandal. I'm just talking about the money. This is lives. How does this happen? Unbelievable. This right here is a scandal by itself. This right here is a segment by itself. Internal requests were made before the strike for capabilities to defeat incoming drones, but those resources never came. You hear anybody talk about it? Hearing any maggots talking about it? Hearing any Democrats talking about it? Two military sources confirmed that the port had basically no drone defeat capability. It was naked. It's naked. It would be like it's basically like Sydney Sweeney taking off her clothes and walking through the south side of Chicago at 2 a.m. That's what it is. They had zero counter-rocket artillery, mortar, CRAM systems. This wasn't an isolated thing. The exact bases that I looked into here that had their sustainment funds raided, we just talked about it, took $1 billion from them. Like the 1991 era Ali Al Salam Air Base. Why is it called Ali Al Salam? I don't know, man. There's a lot of guys get caught up to. But I guess America has a base called Ali. Somebody in the comments always knows these things. Why do we have a base called Ali Al Salam? Why is that? I hate to be on that. I'm not going to get on a tangent. I'm going to just make sure. I just want to know why we have a base in Kuwait. I believe this is Kuwait, named Ali Al Salam. Just tell me why that is. I don't know. I'm sure there's a great reason for it. What is that named after? So let's look back at the Ali Al Salam Air Base. So the question is, why are we even there? The real question is, why are we there? But I'm just the base is named after Ali Al Salam Al Sabah, who was a ruler of Kuwait in the early 20th century. So it's trying to fit in. It's trying to assimilate, I guess. He governed Kuwait from 1920 to 1950. He was a part of the Al Sabah ruling family that still leads Kuwait today. Kuwait names major infrastructures after prominent national figures, especially rulers. Is it? Oh, okay, so it's really a Kuwaiti base. U.S. just uses it. Okay, whatever. But and also the 2002 era camp boring took direct hits to unhardened hangars, logistics, and roofs. So they were just sitting ducks. And they all knew they were sitting ducks. Can you imagine that? They had the alert that they weren't updated before the war. They assessed the threat. They literally had an internal recommendation not to use the trailer, yet they still used the trailer, denied the request for upgrades before the bombing, before we bombed Iran, knowing, I'm not going to say allegedly, they knew, they war gamed it out, that it was a possibility that Iran would attack these vulnerable areas, and we ordered troops into a thin metal roof, and they died. Within the first 6 days, the war cost an estimated $11 billion. Contractors are happy. We have the direct quotes of contractors cashing in. On March 25th, the Pentagon signed framework agreements handing Honeywell a $500 million multi-year investment to surge munitions, while BAE and Lockheed Martin are quadrupling THAAD interceptor seeker production. They weren't going to do that until they replenished it. The soldiers, the Americans died on March 1st. On March 25th, they were handing the money out to the contractor. They probably had it discussed before the bodies were bodies, but the bodies are still warm and they're figuring out where the money's going to go. Lockheed Martin is touting the first combat use of their precision strike missile in Epic Fury, and their backlog is at record levels. The Kratos, I don't even know if that's pronounced correctly, the Kratos Defense CEO explicitly laid out the playbook on an earnings call. So I'm just lining up all the receipts here that I think more than prove that there's a concern here. Way more than proves it. Okay, so it's Kratos. The Kratos Defense CEO explicitly laid out the playbook on the earnings call. The budgets go from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. Discussions have already begun on a second additional 2026 reconciliation bill, including a potential additional 450 billion for defense. And when I first heard about that, I said that's just like I first heard about the 200 they were asking. I was like, oh my gosh, that's nothing. That's a fifth of what they want. They want a trill. They want the budget to be the budget basically was around a trill. It was about 800 billion, but when you added everything in, I forgot what that extra stuff was. Back when I was streaming a lot, I was into that and I got it. It was about a trill of defense spending. And the reason why I was adding that up was to say if we take some of that out, we can do universal basic income. It's the reason why I was digging into that. And I think they easily wanted to jump to 2 trill. What's a trillion amongst friends? So how do you get from 1 trill to 2 trill? You bit by bit. That's how. That's kind of how you do it. So the large scale war predictably accelerated this, and we all are going to, in a way, indirectly not benefit, but work for the war industry more. AI is basically a war tool. AI is taking over the economy, so you can just see it there. Then we're getting robotics with the robotics companies. I think Tesla is the one that's prime. We have a lot of robotic companies in America, but there's only one that I would bet money, my hard-earned money on, and I do literally bet it in the stock market. There's only one company that I would bet on, and Tesla was down 5% today. Whenever Tesla's down, I'm there. That could do it in a mass scale way, and that's what all that matters. So even though the Cybertruck isn't selling like I thought or hoped for various reasons, they were able to mass produce a concept car. That's not a lot of companies can do that. The Cybercab, they're ramping. That's a concept car they're ramping up. The robotics are all war machines. We're allegedly sending people to orbit the moon. That's really a conquest mission to acquire territory in space, data centers, testing that out, testing out the rockets, hopefully, potentially, one day, since we've never done it before, landing on the moon and building up a base on the moon. All of that's war related. All of that is conquest, defense, war related. AI, all conquest, defense, war related. Now, I know you're going to be doing it for other things, making, for recreational purposes, but at its core, AI is war related. We just saw that with the government saying, Claude, Anthropic, you don't get to opt out of this. When I say that these social media companies are extensions of the government, there might not be a better example than what happened with Anthropic, and they decided and said, well, we don't really want to be a part of this fully. We don't think we're ready for it. And I think the bottom line is there's still a percentage of slop. I don't think they have any, just my opinion, they don't have any moral problem with the technology being used for war. The problem that they have is you have AI slop. And my theory was that's what happened with the school, the Minab school that got bombed. It was AI slop. AI slop literally killing people. And Anthropic's like, ooh, it's good. The tool's good. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. This is the Anthropic. But they're saying, it's like 90% there. So the 10% is murdering people. Imagine you had a weapon and you knew at a best case, I don't think it's worse than 10%, to be honest with you. If the data's good, it's probably 100%. But the data's not always perfect. And you're feeding in a lot of data. The more data you feed it, the less accurate it gets. But imagine you had a weapon that you thought 10% of the time it's gonna unlive people. Would you be confident? Imagine you take out your 2A and you knew anytime you took it out and you're trying to use it, 10% of the time it would unlive people that you didn't want it to. You wouldn't take it out if you have any type of morals. And that's what Anthropic was saying, is my understanding. Somebody correct me if you know more. I didn't dig into that deeply, but it was very interesting. I do want to dig into that still. A hell of a time. That was a crazy moment. And the government said, no, you don't get to opt out. And we as a public, we don't see that. And that means Anthropic is a war machine. It is a public utility. Literally, the government tells it you can't opt out of and the government wants to use it and be able to look through the data and search people and all that, of course. And they said, no, you don't get to choose that. We get to choose. That's a hell of a moment. That's a more overt moment than anything that happened under Biden. Everything is going to be indirectly connected to the war machine, built around the war machine. You go to some of these islands, everything is built around the tourist industry. Is literally everybody employed by the tourist industry? No. But without the tourist industry, no one is employed. Maybe 75% of the people on the island. It depends on what island you go to, but just hypothetically, 75% of people on the island are directly employed or a little bit indirectly employed by the tourist industry. Maybe indirectly meaning they do a lot of work like cab delivery, Uberish type stuff, that type of thing, garbage pickup or whatever, contracting with the hotels, resorts. 75% are directly or indirectly paid by the tourist industry. Then the other 25 are just like two layers indirectly. If the 75% of people don't have a job, then the other 25 sure as hell don't, because nobody's going to be having money to buy, go to the restaurants and all that kind of stuff. That's where we're transitioning to. Will everyone literally be a part of the defense industry? No. But you will have more and more people directly a part of it, whether you're a janitor at the building, whether you work at a data center, AI data center for Anthropic, and that's not directly with the war effort, but they are going to be a part of the war effort, or Google or Apple or whoever, Lockheed Martin, whoever. And you go out on the job boards and LinkedIn, you see Lockheed Martin out there a lot, and you see the defense contractors out there. That stigma is going to go away because they are going to be a dominant force Then you have the healthcare industry that's going to be a part of it, but they're going to be kind of piggybacking off of the defense industry. A lot of the healthcare industry has a lot of data, and that's all AI is. So you keep looking at it, you're just going to be degrees separated from the core, which is going to be AI, robotics, defense industry. That's the move. And that's going to be probably that's going to be the legacy of Donald Trump's second term, in my opinion, is actually this right here, change. And that's a big part of this Operation Epic Fury. You look at it like, why are we doing this? Of course, it's Israel. I mean, that's obvious. But what else? What other motivations are there? That's part of the motivation. There's money to be made here. So that's my thought, man. There's nothing that you know that they don't know. That's my thought. Just going through the comments here. Cybercab comments. Ren Soon says, I used to not like the concept of cybercabs until I met people who can't drive on their own anymore, mainly due to failing eyesight, aging. Absolutely. There's something that we have to, and I struggle with this as well, separate. When I talk about universal basic income, you might like that or you might not like it. Basically, the idea that the government will pay a check to everybody as a social safety net. And in mind, there would be no social security, no other welfare, nothing else, no disability. Everybody just gets that UBI and that's your disability. That's what you get. But the government cuts a check to everybody. A lot of people don't like that. And then some of the reasons they might say is, well, the government has too much control. They don't like you, they can cut it off. Or if it's universal health care, you'll have to get the COVID shot or they'll kick you off or whatever. I understand that. You're absolutely right. But if that's true, then there's nothing from the government we can trust. Nothing. If we can't trust the government with our health, then what can we trust the government with? So let's take that off the table for a second and just talk about it from a concept like the cyber cab. What he's talking about is full self-driving. And the concern with full self-driving is, well, I get into my car and I had a rant where I crashed out on the noses and now the car says, well, you picked on the wrong nose heard you, or you went viral and the noses don't like that. We're going to drive you to prison or whatever, or we're not going to let you drive. That is the type of control they have. And it's a private, the software is private. They can shut off your charging. They can stop you from driving. Elon Musk can literally press a button and stop your Tesla from moving. Literally. He can push a button and stop it from charging. He did that to Rich Rebuilds. I understand the problem. That's a separate problem, though, guys. That's a separate problem than what is the technology of the self-driving? That means a car's driving for you. Forget about the centralized control. That's a problem with anything. That's a problem with the toaster. That's a problem with the cell phone. It's a problem with the cell phone. They can spy on the cell phone. They can control the cell phone. They can cut off the software in the cell phone. The car is basically a cell phone. Take that problem off the table for a second and let's just talk about the technology. The technology is beautiful. Like Renson's saying, you can be elderly. You could be blind. It's going to be way safer. Driving's dangerous. Everybody's on their phones when they drive. Every time I kind of look over, I don't even like looking over too much, but you got to be alert. So I just kind of look over at times when, every single time I look over, somebody's on their phone. Like it's over 50% of the time. And at this point, to me, sometimes it makes sense. Don't fight something that's just the way it is. Like ticketing people is not going to solve that. What's going to solve that is full self-driving, where the car will let you go to sleep. There's no steering wheel. Just go ahead and be on your phone. We'll handle it from here. So the technology is solid. If you want to combat the problem of centralized control, that's a problem that exists with or without full self-driving. I am a big proponent of full self-driving. Here for the comments. Hey, hi, how you doing? Appreciate you stopping by. Hippocratic Cole says he can order your cars to return to the dealership if you don't make a payment. Yep. You're coming back. Come here. Yeah, that could happen. It's unlikely that he would. I'm not saying that it's likely that these things necessarily would happen, but that's a control that they would like to have. It's definitely a possibility. Let's keep it real says, why are we bombing now? New wars. Well, it's the industry of war is the engine, but this particular war and many of the wars that get serious with us, it is because another country needs the war, wants the war, and we are the colony. So when you are the colony country, and this is the same thing I talked about with the blacks about slavery, we are slaves now. We are. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy your life. It's a different type of slavery. It's almost like, have you ever been to some of those zoos that have like the big opening? It's not like Africa, but it's not like a little enclosure. I forget where I was. If it was San Diego, I forget what zoo it was. Damn, I think it was actually in California, and not L.A., but I forgot. It begins with a P. I think the city. I should know the city, but I think I was in California years ago, about 2019, I believe. And one of their zoos had like an ostrich enclosure, but it was the biggest enclosure I've ever seen. It was like acres of open land. It was like acres of open land. I was like, this is pretty cool. So it's not like we're in chains. It's not like we're getting beaten on the backs with whips. But if we're in a war that people really don't want, how does that happen? Everyone tells me we're a representative republic. Representative of what? Of who? If the Constitution says Congress shall, I forget the exact verbiage, declare war, and war is declared without Congress shall declaring it, and then you have to abide by the Constitution, but they don't have to abide by the Constitution. To me, that's a form of slavery. That they can do what they need to do, and you cannot. Or what happens? They'll beat your ass. It will come to that if it needs to. You have to pay your taxes. They don't have to do anything. They can print money. They can burn the money. They can bomb countries. They can leave their bases unprotected and kill their own soldiers, our own soldiers, the bravest and brightest. No consequences, zero consequences. They don't have to follow the Constitution. What's the point of the Constitution if they don't have to follow it? What's the repercussions? It literally says you have to declare, if you're going to have war. I mean, the whole point of the country being started is the king, was the judge, jury, executioner, commander in chief, decided about war, decided everything. And they said, well, we're going to break that up into 3 branches. So war is declared. Congress does not authorize the war. They don't do even authorize use of military force. They don't authorize anything with it. And war is still happening. People are dying. And there's no repercussions, not even the threat of it. No threat of impeachment, removal, no pressure on Congress. They did a whole no kings rally, a whole protest. They had the people who abdicated their duty, a fundamental duty of this country, to separate the power of going to war. The senator, like Elizabeth Warren, was there with the No Kings rally. She's not even doing her basic job. And they're doing a protest, is what they called it, with these Congress men and women. So I think we're in a form of slavery. Hippocratic Cole says it doesn't mean Israel's influence is insignificant. Our elites just have overlapping reasons. Well, it's hard. The number one reason is Israel. I think that's the number one reason, because I have to say that because no matter what the defense contractors want or whoever in the United States wants, if Israel didn't want this war, then this wouldn't be the war to have. If Israel wasn't good with the Ukraine-Russia war, then that wouldn't be happening. So Israel's the number one thing, but there's other layers to peel back as well. Stephen Loftus says Donald Trump needs to put as many judges that Joe Biden said he was going to put in there overrun the judges we have. So I believe this is a pack the court argument that you're making. I would agree with that if we were packing the court with people who are worth something, but I don't really. These justices are even Clarence Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh. I mean, even them. I mean, we already know Amy Coney Barrett's trash, but even them, they're not good to me. They're not good. They side with corporatists. And they poke their chest out on decisions that don't really have a chance of winning. You see Clarence Thomas doing that a lot. But when they do have a chance of winning, and it comes down to picking the corporation or the system, they always pick the system. So I don't think the Supreme Court packing the court solves anything. So I'm not. If you are a Trump supporter, if you are still a MAGA supporter, then absolutely you gotta pack the courts. But I'm not. I don't support it. I would support it if it was somebody in power that I did back. It looks in part financial. Arizona has larger helium deposits than Kuwait. All the new chip manufacturers are going to Arizona. Yep. I didn't even cover that part of it. They knew the strait was going to be closed, and there are trickle-down effects from that are actually beneficial to the U.S., where it creates stress, creates demand for oil on the United States. Now, do we have it to provide? No, but I think we could get it eventually. But yeah, that was part of the plan too. I didn't even break that down. I didn't do as much research on that, but I did look at that because that's actually where this started. It started from the street. It started from me saying, wait a second. Let's be careful here. If the strait, they knew that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be blocked. It was going to go down. They knew that. So what does that mean? I kind of went from that angle and worked backwards and then kind of said, hey, they knew all this was going to go down. Yeah, so I think a lot of this makes more sense. I did a cursory check on that, and what I got back was if you cripple the oil export economies for Iran and Russia, then you kind of force the petrodollar to kind of reign supreme. And they're worried about the dollar because China's attacking the dollar. It also would accelerate U.S. energy independence. And I think that's what we're talking about here with Hippocratic, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm understanding your comment correctly. Yeah. Shale, nuclear, renewables by making imports unaffordable, which I support that, but not in the way that they're doing it. And it reshapes alliances, favoring natural gas exporters like Qatar and the US, putting pressure on China and EU dependence. So high prices would hit the US drivers, farmers hard short term, but long term it could consolidate dollar dominance in energy markets. And this is an AI search I did on it. So I have to look more into that to kind of break it down to I like to break it down to like a fourth grade level, just to see what it is. But it looks like a risky gamble, but a gamble that was made on purpose. That's what it looks like to me. Hippocrates says Exxon doesn't want to drill in Venezuela. The new price point makes it attractive. Interesting. I heard that there's problems. It's not as easy to drill. I'm not an expert in that, but I heard it's not as easy to drill in Venezuela. So I don't know where we're at with that. I haven't followed up in Venezuela since that whole thing happened. Wage slave, yeah. Cake eating dragon. Yep, that's a good way to say it. When you look at the power of the dollar, I mean, just look at it. We are. I mean, we are. Who thinks it's okay for the power of the dollar when it? I'm not talking about inflation. I'm talking about what does the dollar buy? Like the official inflation numbers. Go to the grocery store. How much more does it cost for some of your basic groceries now compared to before the pandemic, which Trump was there for 2020, a part of this problem. So don't just put this on Biden. And it's bigger than Trump, but I mean, and go back even before that. I mean, we're talking about groceries, certain items at least 2xing, 3xing, 2 to 3 times more. That means your dollar is weak. So your dollar doesn't go as far. So yeah, we're definitely wage slaves, and we have what's the pushback that we have against that? There's nothing. In the representative republic, how do you push back against that? How do you hurt? You can't. The myth of this, and that's why I like China more. And I even made the statement like, if I know China doesn't like the blacks, but say they did, say they were cool with the blacks, I wouldn't have a problem actually relocating to China, believe it or not. I respect what they do more than at least what I see. Let me try it out for a month or two, go over there. Not now. I mean, just hypothetically. Um, because I think they're more honest. I think their system's more honest. I think they're more nationalist. Meaning they put their country first. They don't put other countries before them. Other countries don't tell them what to do. And I think here we have this facade of free speech. But what do you mean by free speech? The town square is digital. You don't think what we have now on these social media platforms is free speech. You would probably use the Elon line for freedom of speech, but nobody has to hear what you have to say. We can control that. We can turn the dial up and down. That's not free speech. So you pretend like you have free speech, but you don't really have free speech. You can go out to a town square and say something and not get arrested, but what's the impact of that? who goes to a town square. The only people who go to a public town square are politicians. That's those are literally the only people. You do have a couple people, activists, but what activists have power in this country? Name an activist that has power. I mean, you look at Nick Fuentes, probably got to be one of the top ones. But honestly speaking, who's an activist, like a true activist that's not kind of like an op? And then even Nick can't do it because it's just not safe. And security's a lot. I mean, I don't want Nick to do AFPACs are dope, but I don't even want Nick to do an AFPAC anymore. It's just not safe. So what is the free speech that we have? Explain that to me. A black NBA player in the 75, he's black. It's relevant because the league is 75% black. So you would think that all these black blacks would have the back of a black, but no, not if the black goes against the Democrat Party. So the NBA player says innocuous statements about not being supportive of gays. So you have to be pro-gay now. So you can't keep your job in the NBA unless you're pro-gay, or you keep your mouth shut. Where's the free speech? Now, I know it's private. I understand, but where is I'm just looking for the essence of the free speech that I was promised. Or the Constitution is the promise, right? I don't even see that. I don't see the essence of it. You can't say it without being fired. You go to a public town square and nobody sees you because the town square is digital. The digital companies are bullied by the government openly if they don't adhere to what the government wants. And they basically sell the data and comb through your data. That's free speech. I respect China. China's like, you don't have free speech. What? We know what's best for you, and you just listen to us. That's the same thing we got here now, except it's honest. So if I have to compare what we have now to China, I'm with China all the way. And then their infrastructure is the amazing structures and public transportation stations and the safety in certain areas. And it's like, man, like what city in this country do you go to at night and feel safe? Nowhere. There's not one. They don't play in China. I was watching videos in Japan and China where you look at the Apple store. They don't even lock up the devices. Here, the devices are locked up and they still steal them. The blacks are so stupid, they still steal them when they're obviously traceable. Still ripping them off the pole, and maybe they know how to melt them down. I don't know what they do with them, or or does it matter if you can track it if you ship it off somewhere? I don't know what they do to it. But we're just a society that's just really gone. So there's more than enough evidence to make the case that we are in a form of slavery. Definitely not free. Oh, Hippocratic knows a lot here. He says, we have the refineries for sour crude, like Venezuela and Alberta. It's the drilling part Exxon doesn't want to do. Why is it literally messy and expensive? I have always wanted to look into that, just haven't really done it. The Freak, what's up? Long time no see. Friend of the show. You think other countries are telling Donald Trump what to do? Oh, it's beyond that. They put a bullet in this dude's head. I mean, I don't know who did it. Allegedly. I don't know who did. I'm not even alleging anything. But a bullet did literally graze by his head, and we act like nothing happened, basically. Yeah, I think other countries. Mark Levin wrapped his arm around Donald Trump and clawed that nigga. Yeah, I think other countries are telling him what to do. I think that's pretty clear. I think that's pretty obvious. They're clawing that nigga. while he's an active president. Literally, come here. Donald Trump was visibly shaken, visibly disturbed by it. Mark Levin. I wouldn't let Mark Levin claw me, much less the president. That was a wild moment. Yeah, I think it's safe to say somebody's telling him to do something. I think that's pretty clear. He's not making decisions on his own. You seen him on Truth Social saying like, if you don't support Mark Levin, you're not MAGA. That's not an organic Donald Trump statement. That's not how the movement started. That's not what Donald Trump envisioned before the escalator. I can promise you that. I can assure you of that. So I feel sorry for him in a very small way, but because it's not what he wanted. Just like basically these influencers get into the game, and I always talk about Tim Pool, and he started just basically like I am. He just did it, just way better, way smarter, really good. Just great storyteller. He's an encyclopedia. He's a living AI. But I don't know why my camera went. He's a living AI. I hope my audio's still going. I guess that's God telling me to wrap it up. I'm thoroughly confused because I can see it on my end, the camera working, but maybe, oh no, it's not working. But Donald Trump is trapped. That's the problem. I mean, that's clearly the problem, is that he's trapped. You rise up as MAGA, and then the whole thing becomes bigger than you. I do feel sorry for Donald Trump in a way, because that's what I think happened. Who knows? Maybe he was an op from the beginning. Remember I was critical of the, is it the New Hampshire LP or one of the LP accounts? I think Jeremy Kauffman is the one that was running it at the time. Kind of criticized Trump as a globalist, and I was like, no, where are you getting that from? Yeah, you were right. I have to eat crow on that one. So I don't know for sure, but the impression I get is Donald Trump, I mean, he always knew how to play the game because he came up in New York, and you know who runs New York. So he always knew how to play the game, but Donald Trump said he wanted universal health care when he was running in 2015. I don't think he knew what he was getting into. Unless that was a lie to just win. It could be. Camera's gone. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's rough, man. It's rough. Just hang in there with me, man. This is low budget, man. We we got a gray background. We got a camera that goes in and out. We're just trying to hang in there, man. Hippocratic says you're going to have the same problem in China, Korea, and Japan. They are extremely racist even to each other. But they're kind of a based kind of racist, though. I work with Korean and Chinese programmers. I've become somewhat of a go-between. Yeah, I know. But I'm sorry, I'm not fully understanding. They're kind of a base type of racist. They keep their country pure. They don't want anybody else in there. And it makes them go faster. It's homogeneous. I like the essence, don't get me wrong, of America, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not controlled. And I just have to say it. If it's not controlled by the same philosophy of white male Europeans that started it, then it just turns into a hellhole. You're just letting in shithole countries. My parents are from Jamaica. Jamaica's a shithole. So I don't want Jamaicans coming here, and I was born here, but I don't want Jamaicans coming here and turning this country into Jamaica. What the? Why would I want that? Jamaicans don't want that. That's why they came here. And The problem is China keeps their country like this is China. This is what we are. Eastern philosophy, collectivism, um, utilitarianism. That's what we are. This is what we believe. It's not all bad. And at least they have a kind of like a common goal. We don't even have a we were talking about the space launch and how it's like nobody really cares. Why does nobody care? It's the same argument as the Super Bowl. We don't there's no everybody has their own silo. As a family, my family, I have a wife and 2 kids, we don't even watch TV together basically. I mean, we watch some movies like we watch Harry Potter and Star Wars, but it's not the same as when I was growing up. We turned on the TV and we watched the nightly news every day at 6. We don't do that now. If it's downtime before dinner, the kids they get an hour of tablet time if they want. They don't have to do it, but they get an hour of tablet time. They're on their own. They have their own tablets. When I was growing up, even when it was me and my brothers watching TV, we were watching G.I. Joe together. Um, Dad and I, we were watching. Dad loved Tom and Jerry and those type of shows, and the Roadrunner, and we watched those together. My wife has her own algorithm on Instagram. I don't even like the shorts platforms anymore. So I'm on. I I really just listen to Nick Fuentes, to be honest with you. Believe it or not, I only pretty much right now listen to. There's many other people I would like to listen to, but with time permitting, I listen to Nick Fuentes and Viva and Barnes. They have a great show. They're the top 2 shows right now for me in the game. Nick Fuentes and Viva and Barnes. The Viva and Barnes on Sundays. That is an amazing show. And I'm on America First Plus. I love it where I can just do the MP3 download but my point is my wife doesn't listen to any I'm listening on headphones or I got my own phone. We don't have a shared within even the freaking household. We don't have a shared really reality. So we are trying to fight that a little bit. I made the executive decision. We got to watch stuff from the 90s. I said, I don't care what you want to watch. It can be, so we're sitting down as a family. So it's not every night, but like pretty much 2 nights a week, like after dinner. Kids can pick, they'll let the kids pick. I don't even care what we watch. Simpsons, Inspector Gadget. We watched that the other day. I don't care what it is. We watched Alf. We watched Alf the other day. That's kind of like the 80s, 90s, but we watched one of their favorites, believe it or not, to get them off the YouTube and to have some type of same thing we're watching as a family so we can talk like with this episode of The Simpsons, Cutthroat Kitchen. The kids love that. I love that show. If you remember, not the new one, but the newer one, the old one from 2017 or whatever. Oh, that show was great. It was like Chopped, but more fun with oh man. But there's so many different shows you can watch together as a family, and that's great. And so we're doing that now. But Gumby is one of their favorite shows. It's funny. And it makes sense because it's very weird, just like a stream of consciousness. And that's kind of like the stuff they like on the tablets and stuff. They don't even watch G.I. Joe, which kind of hurts my heart. They watch the Prime Animations on Transformers. They don't even really watch the Transformers movie. We watched Jurassic Park. We watched every Jurassic Park. But my wife didn't watch that. That was just me and the boys. Um, but my point is, nobody cares about the launch. Nobody's watching it. It's not a big deal. Nobody watches where are we going to see the launch? Even on X, it's not even hyped up. And I know this isn't Elon SpaceX directly, but anything about space benefits SpaceX. They're the number 1 private company doing it. And he's not even hyping it up. The camera angles are bad. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't want to be a downer on it, but we don't have a shared culture. And I don't even know what the point of a country is if you don't have what's the point? How do you even build laws off of that? Why do we have a constitution if we don't have any shared culture? And that's what kind of what it's become. So you take what we have in our household, it doesn't connect to any other households. When I was a kid, I remember in 6th grade after the Cosby Show, I think it was a Monday, I forgot when it aired. Everybody talked about the Cosby Show. Everybody talked about In Living Color. Everybody talked a little bit about in Saturday Night Live back in the day. Fresh Prince. I mean, there's some stuff, but it's so fractured. Some people, even at work, you're seeing people. I heard somebody talking about like Jester Maxing and all that kind of the stuff. Clavicular made popular, but everybody doesn't even know that. So it's like, oh, I know what echo chamber you're in. Maybe we could talk a little bit, but it's not like the whole office knows what Jester Maxing is or whatever. Looks Maxing is. It's not like something you would even talk at the water cooler about because you don't even know if somebody else knows it. So we're kind of broken. Um, like literally, we're broken and segmented out, and then ultimately controlled through those apps. But Big said, "Grown man stream talking trash to 5 viewers on YouTube." That's what it's come to, man. But you know what? I appreciate every 5. Those 1, 2, 3. Like there's like 3 people on YouTube watching. I appreciate y'all, man. I really do. I mean that seriously. But the truth is, sometimes the funniest thing is just the truth. The grown ass man at 12:24 a.m. Mountain Time trash talking to 3 people on YouTube. That's what our country is, man. Isn't America great? Hippocratic oath. Okay, I see the play like oath. Okay, I got you now. I'm a little slow. Let me catch up. I met Jamaicans working in Czech Republic in winter. It was funny. I asked why they were working outside in the cold, but no jobs in Jamaica. Yeah, my parents are Jamaican, and Jamaicans very obviously go to Miami where it's warmer, but they go to New York. Historically, that's where jobs were, and then even Cleveland as a relatively significant Jamaican population. And Jamaicans are kind of, the In Living Color joke. Jamaicans work hard, man. Doesn't matter about cold. I know it's not natural. It's not natural for them. It's different than the Somalis. The Somalis hate the cold, but they're just scammers. So they are natural scammers, pirates, but I mean, it's that mentality. Not that they're all literally pirates, but they have that survival technique. They're not hard workers for sure, but they are hard scammers though. So the reason why they're in cold Minnesota is because that's where basically the toxic tolerance is. They couldn't have done the same thing in every city in this country, so they tolerate the cold to take advantage of the Scandinavian high trust society. Jamaicans, they'd go to the cold because that's where the plants were. Cleveland had plants. Now it's the Cleveland Clinic, and jobs off of that. But they went there because it was jobs and just tough out the cold to have, Jamaicans typically would have like literally 2, 3 jobs. So that's what it is. It's kind of like Mexicans, but in a weird way, I think the Mexicans work harder. Jamaicans are more like the hustler type to have jobs, stereotypically. So that's my take on the Jamaicans. But Jamaicans don't historically don't want handouts and stuff like that. They'll just hustle multiple jobs and make it happen. Mexicans, then they're not like the multiple job types, but they just work overtime work, and when they're at a job, they work their ass off historically. So that's what I think it is. Um, Caroline's Caroline Smith. Is that a female in here? Do we have a woman? Or it's Carl? Caroline Smith says Saudi Arabia didn't give him an airplane for nothing. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, I don't like the optics of that. Would have never accepted that. I would have never played along with that. Grass, yeah, that's fair. The freak says the grass is always greener. Yep, especially if I've never lived there. So it always like the grass is always greener, and I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful for my opportunity here, but I'm not gonna lie, it's disappointing the direction the country's going. Yeah, I see the freak. I'm going back to the chats. What's up? It's been a long time to freak. All based on the oil supply, that liquid gold. But I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna be out and yeah. The reason shout out to Christian, Christian friend of the show. He just randomly hit me up on Twitter. It's like, hey, have I missed any streams or anything like that? No, I haven't streamed in a long time. And just made me want to stream real quick. That's literally the only reason why I streamed today. But I'm out, y'all. Appreciate it. I'm out, but I might play some music in the background or whatever. But um, it shows over. It reminds me of the old times where I would say the show's over, then I would just play music in the background and come back on the mic every once in a while. I did cop a Apple Neo. I don't even know the name of it. I bought the thing. I don't even know the name of it. It's the Apple Neo. So if you have any questions on that, I can talk about it. I needed another Apple product like I needed a hole in my head. Why does it keep going backward? I need another Apple product like I need a hole in my head. But for some reason, I wanted the Apple Neo laptop. So I did cop one. I like it. Now, it's kind of weird because I didn't even test it out before I bought it. I just ordered it and picked it up. My favorite Apple laptop though right now is the Air. The Air is just so, because it's just thin, it's light, it's clean. The Neo is a little bulky, not as high quality. Obviously, it's the cheapest one in the lineup. But I am happy with it though. Nick canceled. I hate when my free. Oh yeah, I saw Nick has the power issues though. It looked like he has storms out there, so he was gonna go live. But to my knowledge, he was gonna go live, but had storm issues. I am perfectly fine, man. That dude, I don't know how that dude goes hot every day, man. You got to refresh the batteries. But this dude is doing 3-hour lives with no commercials. Like when I listened to Jim Rome back in the day, he would do I think his show was 4 hours, believe it or not, when it first started. That's crazy. But it was 4 hours with commercials. So with all the ads and the commercials, he was probably doing 2 hours max, 2.5 hours. So he's doing every night. He's doing, and then Jim Rome cut it down to 3 hours. You don't see a lot of people doing that stuff anymore. You're doing 2.5, 3 hours of just, you got to be on. I mean, this dude's scrutinized for every word he says. You got to be on every second, even when you're making the jokes and all that. I mean, I appreciate him just taking a break so he can refresh, come back, and you can tell when somebody's refreshed. And yeah, but you know what, Nick, I gotta check my email. God, I'm in the $100 Nick chat, and this is how I can't get in the chat. I don't know if I emailed them. That's messed up. I haven't been in the chat in like 6 months. I mean, I haven't been in the chat. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with my Telegram. Every time I click the link, it says expired. So I can't get into the chat. So I'm in the $100 chat with Nick and them, and I haven't even gotten to be in there. I'm just gonna see if they responded to me at all. Somebody was trying to help me and it never worked. That was months ago. But I mean, I'm donating to the show, so I mean it's not the end of the world, but he is doing more content in there now, and I'm like, I need to see what's up with that. Let's see. Damn, I don't think they even responded to me. Yep, that was like 3 weeks ago. I gotta figure that out, man. Somebody holler at Nick. Anybody else have that? I mean, there's not a lot of people in there. It was actually 400 people in there when I was in. I don't know how many people are in there. I think it was 400. I think it was 400 people in that chat when I was last in there. So that's some $100 a month for each one. No joke. He loves help desk questions. No, I'm not going to super chat Nick. I know it actually would be funny. Super chat him about not getting into the chat. Ask him to explain. That would be hilarious. He'd probably be like, bitch, I'm blocking you from the chat. Just for asking me that. But the super chats are funny for Nick now because everybody's now just asking stupid questions to have him cut up. Which is funny. He's like, do it. I should do it. I mean, what's 25? I'd do a $25 super chat. What would he say? It would make for a clip. The Groiper Clippers would clip it, that's for sure. He'd be like, do I look like a damn help desk to you? What's going on with Sneeko, man? It's not the most important thing in the world, but you following that hypocrite? It sounds like you following that. Dang, I like Sneeko a lot, man, but he's brown clowning. Come on, bro. I don't know if he's just engagement baiting. I don't know what's going on, but he's acting weird, man. I never seen anybody. If you go back 2.5 years ago, that nigga had nothing but love from Groipers. Nothing but love. And then I don't know what happened. It was the Haitian thing, and he started the whole Muslim thing has gotten weird with him, and then everything's like this. It's like a leftist race issue. Like, I got no problem with race, but it's all from like basically there's no difference between him and AOC on his race takes. It's weird. And he's all in his feelings. I knew it wasn't going to work, but Sneeko did Nick a solid way back in the day. But I'm kind of feeling like Nick, where it's like Sneeko doesn't like the Groipers, but I still like Sneeko. I said he's a lovable brown clown. He's our brown clown. Smart guy. He does great. He's underrated as an interviewer. He was really, because he knows what he's doing. He's just a really bright guy. He just knows how to do an interview, to ask like good questions, somewhat tough questions without making it feel unfair. Really insightful, curious dude. No, I don't think Nick held on to Laura Loomer too long. I'll disagree with that. Things changed quickly, and they fell out. I covered that when they fell out, 2024. Because he wasn't really rocking with her. He wasn't like against her or anything like that, but he hadn't really supported her even right when they had that beef in 2024. They really hadn't connected in a minute. So it's wild to think about that, how Laura Loomer was, and I still like Laura Loomer. I mean, I don't have really beef with her. I mean, she's a rabid, insane Zionist who would prefer that I not breathe, but other than that, I have no beef with her. He was supporters of Ethan. You talking about Ethan, what's his name? The debate dude, hosting dude, in Baked Alaska. I'm not too familiar with them. I know who they are, but I'm not too familiar with them. I mean, Nick had Ashley St. Clair in a headlock, playfully. Things change. Things change. The environment we're in now is completely different. Before October 7th and after October 7th is what we're looking at. things changed real quickly. It is whack. Why do I have this? I don't know how I can listen to a beat and think it's okay, and then now realize it's just completely whack. Delete this. I don't drink, but I mean, I just don't drink often, but I must have been drunk when I listened to that beat. I can't remember the last time I got drunk. I do like this beat, smooth beat. Wow, it looks like Theo Von crashed out. I didn't hear anything about this one. Oh, wow. Theo Von says, whoa, it looks like Theo Von crashed the hell out. Okay. In a good way. Do they copyright the audio? Do you play just audio? I don't even know.
I'm just sick of this shit. And I'm sick of rich people not putting their fucking kids over in these wars and shit like that. Put your fucking honky ass kids up there. Let them go.
Oh, wow. We got a hot one. We got honky references? Okay, Theo. I don't know if that was necessary, but I mean, when you're in a rant, you're just in a rant. It's just what it is.
Shed some fucking blood.
Especially if you're asking for it.
Damn. Yeah, he had enough. People getting fed up.
Especially if you're out there fucking bullshitting, dude. Put your fucking honky little fancy ass fucking kid up there, man. That shit makes me mad, bro.
What?
I'm just sick of this shit.
Damn. He crashed out. Wow.
What do you think is going to happen? You think we're going to be okay?
I hope so. Of course. I don't know.
Do you think about it?
I'm confused. I can't believe we went to this war. When we started bombing Iran, I was like, this can't be true.
And what about Lebanon now?
What? It's so weird because, you know, I know it's for me because I've been listening to Nick. If anybody's been listening to Nick, nobody was surprised about this. When Nick it was AFPAC 3, right? Or was it 4? I forget. It was AFPAC 4. The last AFPAC in Detroit. When Nick was talking about the Iran war, I didn't know where that was coming from. I'd heard the, military always wanted to invade Iran from years ago, but at that moment where he brought it up as like a part of the Groyper 2 in a way, that's how Groyper 2 started, I believe. I wasn't like, oh, is that an issue? Iran? I didn't know. So I've been listening to Nick talk about Iran for a minute. No, so if you've been listening to Nick talk, there's no surprise. I'm pretty sure Theo Von's listened to Nick, but it's weird to hear Joe Rogan.
What do you think is going to happen? You think we're going to be...
Because he sounded like he was taken off guard. So Joe needs to have Nick on his show. I mean, he just needs to.
You okay?
I hope so.
Just from an informational standpoint. Because you see Joe is just... It's weird because he knows a lot about certain things, and then the other times he's just a complete, like, normie.
Okay?
I hope so. Of course. I don't know.
Do you think about it?
I'm confused. I can't believe we went to this war. When we started bombing Iran, I was like, this can't be true.
And what about Lebanon now?
I know. Israel's invaded Lebanon. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, just fucking stop. Like, what do you need?
Well, they're trying to, supposedly, they're trying to stop the terrorists.
Yeah, that's crazy, though, if you're the fucking terrorist. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to stop them, fucking stand in front of the fucking mirror and start there. What do you think?
That's he's not naming the Jew, but the energy level is. Oh, he's there. He said, "Step in front of the mirror." Wow, I gotta listen to this episode.
So when you see like how it all played out and why it is what it is today, Jesus Christ, you'd be mad too.
Yeah.
And when you're mad and you're surrounded by bigger enemies that all have nuclear weapons, you don't even have nuclear weapons, wouldn't you be trying to make them? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying Iran should have nuclear weapons. I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons.
am.
They definitely.
I am. We'd be much safer off if they did.
Israel gets to have them.
Allegedly. This is the problem.
Oh, stop.
Allegedly.
Everything's allegedly with
But
them.
allegedly.
Except for the genocide.
You know, they don't officially have them.
No, even that's allegedly to them.
Right.
I don't think they admit they officially have them. And you know who was a big opponent of Israel getting nuclear weapons?
JFK.
JFK. Yeah. That's what a lot of people think led back into the left.
Oh, yeah. Before they killed him, who? I don't know.
So
What'd
the
you say?
Iranian Revolution.
These guys, their takes are so incoherent because they're like, you know what? Who was against it? JFK. Our president who got
officially
assassinated.
have them. And you know who was a big opponent of Israel getting nuclear weapons?
JFK.
JFK. Yeah. That's what a lot of people think led back into the.
So the take is so incoherent because the same people will say, well, we still have to defend Israel. Oh, well, it's not all, they'll say, it's not all Israelis. It's not all Jews. And you're like, huh? Israel is a Jewish ethno-state. So we have to have the conversation. So they'll do this, but they won't have that other conversation.
JFK.
So I don't even know what their take is. Because that was a different Israeli regime. So you can't have I guess you could have the take where you disagree with this Israeli regime. And then I guess every Israeli regime that has ever existed. Is that the take? Because they don't go any deeper than that. It was like Tucker was interviewed, and Tucker said that basically he was asked about the right for Israel to exist. And I said, well, Tucker's a Zionist. He's just a full-blown Zionist. I have no problem saying that. I fully 100% believe that. Tucker is a Zionist. He's a form. Now you could have different levels of Zionism. I mean, he's not the most rabid of Zionists, but this is the clip here. And this Tucker has this take. Joe Kent has this take. J.D. Vance probably has this take. Theo Vaughn probably has this take. Joe Rogan probably has this. So I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I want to know what their answer is to this.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean?
Such a good question. Such a good question. This is from The Economist. Such a good question. I'm going to let it play, and then I'm going to break it down.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean, a right to exist?
The existence of the political state of Israel as
But
it
it
has
has
existed.
a right. What does that mean?
That you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term so I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions. So I often hear the phrase...
Having been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a
that
right
state
to exist? Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right.
No.
Should it continue to exist? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government. Of course, does it have a right to exist? And so my question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple question.
I don't know what your question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction.
Okay,
I've already said, as you know, because I said it to you, I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms of Zionist. If that's how
I'm
we're
in
going
no
to define
sense a Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents, period. That's the basis of Western civilization. Eastern civilization, it's a whole different view. They believe in collective punishment. I don't.
So you're in no sense a Zionist.
I don't even know what that means. Why don't you define the term, and then I'll tell you whether I am.
I've just defined it.
What's
you
a
said
Zionist?
that a Zionist, in my narrow term, this definition is that the state of Israel, the political state of Israel, has the right to continue existing.
The right? Where does that right come from? What do you mean? These are like, I'm not being a lawyer about it. I just want to know what you're asking me.
You answer the question.
Because I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go to the
Wait,
third.
no. I think a lot. You don't want to define your question, and I don't know why. I don't know what you're asking me. I've already said I don't want Israel to be destroyed. I don't want anyone to be killed. And you've said, does Israel have a right to exist? Does it have my question is, what right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries, that countries with borders have the right to continue.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that, because I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely putting words into my mouth.
So because I believe, here's what I do believe, since you asked. I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else. I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights, blacks, Filipinos. I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
Yeah, I think this is absolute bullshit from Tucker. And I understand the question is a trap. But it's a great question. I'm kind of surprised, because I actually thought, and maybe this is just hubris or what, I thought I was the only one who had this take, that was kind of my definition, not the definition, but the test whether somebody was a Zionist or not, was that phrase. Because, as I started learning about Israel, still a baby in this, but, when after October 7th, that's when everybody started saying Israel has a right to defend itself. And then they started saying Israel has a right to exist. Basically the same type of thing. And I'm like, where is this right coming from? So I'm thinking through the answer, but Tucker thought through the answer too. I just thought, I didn't know anybody else used that as a mark for Zionism. I absolutely agree with her on that. Now I understand Tucker's part. I've said the same thing that Tucker's saying. So I'm going to tell you why I have a problem with Tucker, but I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I agree with him. Human rights come from God. That's Christian belief, basically. But he also used that theology as a filibuster, is basically what he was doing. He was just dodging. He was kind of shaking and moving and doing his best Barry Sanders impression in the 2000s, just kind of breaking backwards, cutting, and dodging the actual question. If somebody asks me, does Israel have a right to defend itself? My answer is no. Does Israel have a right to exist? My answer is no. And then we'll break down, like, what is your thought on that question? What does that question mean to you? I know I can answer the question no, because there is no way that you can phrase that question that would make any logical sense that I would say yes to. So the answer is no. If you can't answer that question no quickly, you're a Zionist. And I'm not even here to say you're a bad person because you're a Zionist. I'm just trying to set the kind of table stakes. I'm not even right now trying to argue. I'm not trying to even denigrate Zionists. But Tucker is a Zionist. He got a very easy question for a non-Zionist to answer. A non-Zionist does not have a problem answering this question.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you?
And I like how she started it. I got to watch this whole interview, because this section here, she's prepared. You criticize the government of Israel. She studied this. I can tell, because that's a nuanced position to bring up. A lot of people don't even understand that. A lot of interviewers don't even understand that. You, Tucker, So what she's really getting at is you poke your chest out a lot. You're criticizing the government of Israel. That's no different than me criticizing Trump. That's not the Israel take. My take is I criticize Israel, literally Israel. not the current regime of Israel. I criticize Israel, its existence, its relationship with us. I don't question America's existence. I question Biden or Trump. He's doing that same thing with Israel and then gatekeeping anything beyond that. So that's why she's laying that out. She's like, you criticize the government of Israel. Let's go deeper. She's putting Tucker on the couch right now. It's almost like saying, you criticize your wife because, or whatever, your husband because he leaves his shoes in the way or whatever in the middle of the floor. Let's go a little deeper than that. That's what she's doing here.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What is that?
And Tucker knows what she's doing, so then Tucker's like, ooh, what does that mean? So you whatever the little thing is, somebody tries to go underneath that. Is there a deeper issue here? Is there a deeper concern with Israel other than Benjamin Netanyahu and the current people in power there right now? That's really what she's getting at. And for me, obviously, the question is, yeah, it's deeper than that. But the way that she phrases it is perfectly, because it's concise. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Do you believe in Israel's right to defend itself?
I mean, a right to exist.
The existence of the political state of Israel as
But it has
existed,
a right. What does that mean?
that you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term.
So if I were to ask Tucker that question, I wouldn't be defining it. I would say Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you had on your show, agrees with Israel's right to exist and defend itself. Matt Gaetz agrees. Thomas Massey agrees with Israel's right to defend itself, right to exist. What would you say? I don't know how they're going to define that or not. You take it and define it however you want to. What's the answer to that question for you? Yes or no? I'm not here to debate the meaning of it because it's not from me. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I agree with you. Right to come from God. That's a American culture. It's in the Declaration of Independence. So I agree with that, Tucker. I'm not here to debate that with you. But there are people, you do agree there are people who say that, right, Tucker? So are you saying that you can't answer the question because it didn't mean anything? I think it's a simple yes or no. For me, there's no way you can define that or twist that question into a yes for me, Tucker. So I'm confused as to why you can't answer yes or no to it.
So I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions.
I do agree they're different questions.
So I often hear the
Having
phrase,
been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a
that
right
state
to exist? Is that what you're asking?
So if rights come from God, why the hell do we not have a no at this point? What kind of bullshit games is Tucker Carlson playing here? The answer is no. It's simple, right? I mean, I don't understand what's happening here.
Right
state
to exist. Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right.
No.
Should it continue to exist? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government. Of course, does it have a
Filibuster? Just talking. No different than AOC or whatever politician you go on the MSNBC or whatever show, you get 3 questions because At most, you might have a 15-minute segment. Each question they take 10 minutes to answer.
Right to exist. And so my question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple
I don't know what your
question.
question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction.
Okay,
I've already said.
So she kind of copped out of it because he pressed her on it. So it worked where he didn't have to answer the question. Why do you think Tucker's acting like this? Well, why do you think he can't say no? If you don't agree with me, I think he's a Zionist. If you don't agree with me, help me understand why Tucker can't just say no. He can't say no because he's a part of the J.D. Vance, Joe Kent, that whole Peter Thiel network where they're all Zionists. Like, Tucker doesn't criticize Peter Thiel, who's an open Zionist. Tucker's a closeted, he's a subversive Zionist. Charlie Kirk was doing the exact same thing as this. Exact same thing as this. Except I think he would answer, yes, they do have a right to exist.
As you know, because I said it to you.
Defend themselves or whatever.
I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms a Zionist. If that's
I love how she did that. So she struggled in the middle where she said, you just define it. Which wasn't, no, that doesn't work for me because he changed the question. And so since he changed the question, really she should have came back and said, okay, you changed the question. But that's even better, though, because she just flat out, and then she kind of pissed him off because she's not happy with the interaction right now. She's like, okay, you're a Zionist then. She's absolutely right. So Tucker's like, wait, what? I am a Zionist, but I wasn't supposed to be called out as one, though.
Zionist. If that's how
I'm in no sense.
Why do you think Tucker's kind of always cheap-shotting Nick Fuentes as being anti-Semitic? Because Tucker's a Zionist. That's why. Why is he cheap-shotting and saying, well, it's not all Jews and that type of stuff because he believes in the Jewish ethno-state? Why does he have Dave Smith on? Dave Smith calls people, and I like Dave Smith. I like some of what Tucker does. I like Dave Smith way more than Tucker. I would still vote for Dave Smith as president. I'd vote for Nick Fuentes over him, obviously, but he's not old enough. I would vote for Dave Smith for president. The only reason I would vote for him over Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai has citizenship issues with the whole 14th, but I think it's the 14th that he was suing on. But I would vote for comic Dave Smith as president. But there are problems with him. He's a Zionist as well, in my opinion, because he's in the same boat as this. This is his thing right here. So I think he would say, no, Israel doesn't have a right, because he's a better debater than Tucker. He knows what to do, when not to say it. But at the bottom, when you listen to Dave Smith, when he talks about, he doesn't talk about racism as if it's a problem. He tells off-color jokes, but all of a sudden, he has a problem with anti-Semitism coming from Nick Fuentes or Jake Shields or whatever. It comes from the standpoint of supporting the motherland. Does he support the motherland? Of course he does. These guys are all Zionists. All of them are.
A Zionist. I don't want any country.
Zionist. If that's how
I'm
we're
in
going
no
to define
sense a
it.
Zionist. Have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms a Zionist. If that's how
I'm
we're
in
going to
no
define
sense a
it.
Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed, at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents. Period.
He's not a Zionist, but he's not anti-Israel. Help me understand that take. He's only anti the current government of Israel. He's not anti the existence of Israel. He has no problem with that. He has no problem defending Israel. Joe Kent was on with him, talked about how we must, basically, we have to defend Israel with all the criticism. Why do we have to defend Israel? Actually, no, we don't.
That's the basis of Western civilization. Eastern civilization is a whole different view. They believe in collective punishment. I don't.
So you're in no sense a Zionist.
I don't even know what that means. Why don't you define?
So then he did already answer that question and say in his mind he's not. Okay, that's fair to answer How do you define it? Tucker, in part, I define it by, can you answer yes or no to does Israel have a right to exist? That's partly how. You can't answer the question, so I have no choice but to call you a Zionist. Either the answer is no, they don't, or you're a Zionist.
And the term, and then I'll tell you whether I am.
I've just defined it.
What's
you
a
said
Zionist?
that a Zionist, in my narrow term, this definition is that the state of Israel, the political state of Israel, has the right to continue existing.
The right? Where does that right come from? What do you mean? These are like, I'm not being a lawyer about it. I just want to know what you're asking me.
You answer the question.
Because I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go to the
Wait,
third.
no. I think a lot. You don't want to define your question, and I don't know why. I don't know what you're asking me.
See, the interviewer missed that opportunity to say, well, Tucker, I think he's going to say it here with God. So let me play it a little bit more.
I've already said I don't want Israel to be destroyed. I don't want anyone to be killed. And you've said, does Israel have a right to exist? Does it have my question is, what right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries. That countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did was.
So that's weird. So now he totally agrees. So then the answer is yes. It doesn't matter if he's saying the answer is yes to all countries. The answer is yes. This is incoherent, guys. This is a completely incoherent take. Why is this so hard?
Within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, what Israel did was.
Borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree.
Condoned into countries. That countries with borders have the right.
So they go back to World War II. The New World Order built up after, or the world order built up after 1945.
Right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries. That countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
So she was saying countries with borders. He interrupted her, but she was going to say countries with borders have rights is what she was going to say.
Not be condoned into countries. That countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first.
So then he just said he believes Israel has a right to exist. But he's acting like it's an exercise instead of his principle.
First thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that because I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a...
See, he didn't even fully answer the question. He's kind of doing this philosophical exercise with it. Man, this is a bad clip. This is a really bad clip.
Right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we started portioning rights...
The clip is bad because he's not authentic. This is not authentic. He's not answering. He's not trying to genuinely understand and answer the question. He's trying to filibuster and weasel out. That's why the clip's so bad. Even if you haven't thought through it, you would think through it live and not be combative about it and figure out, where is my stance on this?
Only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely putting words into...
Yeah, she didn't say that. She didn't say that at all, at least in this clip.
Because I believe, here's what I do believe, since you asked. I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences.
What does that have to do with anything? Does Israel have a right to exist? Are you saying universally they have a right to exist? And then he's going to go with the God, or did he already do the God?
That's why I believe in human rights, not...
So you see now, so his first part of this is, I believe in universal, like the same across the board. So that sounds like you say, well, yes, Israel has a right to exist and every other territory or country has a right to exist then. But then he twists it to no countries have rights. So then that would be a no to all countries. He doesn't even answer the question.
They're not universally applicable. They're not standards. They're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else.
Well, that's not true. You do believe in ethnic rights because he believes in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's an ethnic right bill. Ah, man, this is just all around bad.
standards, their preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights.
Yes, you do. Wait. Does Tucker not agree with the? If you look at the Civil Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act gives Jews more rights. That's literally what the legislation does. It's not only Jews, but it gives everyone other than white Christian males basically separate rights. Search Tucker Carlson's take on the Civil Rights Act. Is he against the Civil Rights Act of 1964? I know there's more other one, but that's the big one.
Anyone else? I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights. Blacks, Filipinos.
Wait, blacks do have more rights. That's weird. What is his take on the Civil Rights Act? I gotta clarify that. And it's a little off topic, but I thought he supported it. Or maybe I'm wrong. Because I know Charlie was questioning it for sure. Charlie has criticized the cultural regime that grew around the civil rights enforcement, DEI, but we don't have a clear, direct statement from him saying he opposes or would want to repeal the Civil Rights Act. I just don't know what he is, man. I don't know what Tucker is. He's not. He's a shapeshifter. He's an op.
I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
So then the answer is no. I don't know what happened there, man. That was so bizarre. Ever since I saw that, I wanted to react to it. Let's see. Tucker, I said I was going to be out. Let me get some sleep. Tucker runs all his major life decisions by a gay man. What? Oh, you're talking about Peter Thiel. I was like, what? I was like, breaking news. I was like, is he Christy Dome's husband? Tucker runs all his major life decisions by a gay man who talks about the Antichrist all the time, Peter Thiel. And Peter is in bed with the tribe, yeah. So none of it makes sense. It's just completely incoherent. The whole take is incoherent. His associations are incoherent. Nobody asked him, does anybody ask him about Peter Thiel? Nick was on there, and you notice Tucker was very careful and friendly because that you act a fool with Nick on there, you probably wouldn't be able to upload it because I don't think it was live. I forget if it was live or not. I don't think it was live. But then Nick will pull out Peter Thiel. He could go anywhere. So Mark Allen says Tucker is the opposite of a Zionist. So I broke it down to you. Help me understand. He was asked, does Israel have a right to exist? The nigga literally didn't answer the question. Why? The only person that would have a trouble answering that question is a Zionist. He's an anti-Semite. Who's on the stream, man? How is Tucker an anti-Semite? When have you ever heard Tucker criticize a Jew? And not that Jewish criticism makes you anti-Semite, but he doesn't even do that. Come on, you gotta step up better than that. Hippocratic Oath says Theo Von is trying to lead Joe Rogan in the same way Nick leads Alex Jones. Nick is just more blunt. Great comparison. That's exactly the vibe I got from that. And it's just 30-second clips I saw, but it felt like Theo Von was authentic. That's what authenticity feels like, not the Tucker interview, which was horrific. At least that part. Hippocratic Oath says, I jumped off the Trump train after COVID. Yeah, COVID. Man, this guy he went from COVID to now the Iran war and handing over the executive branch and basically the whole government to Palantir, Immigration OS, Real ID when he didn't have to, re-upping FISA. Man, Trump's been a disaster, man. He's been really, really bad. It was hard to do a live without talking about it. He's been that bad. Trump single-handedly destroyed the mass deportation movement in this country by offing those liberals and then using that as an excuse to back off. And then basically dropping the whole mass deportation right after that. Man. Wow. He set back the mass deportation movement a generation, 20 years. You're not going to get any Republican talking about mass deportations. It's just not going to happen. Not any viable candidate. That's how bad that was. All Trump that did that. His legacy is cooked. Well done. And I mean overcooked. Well done. But let me be out of here for real. I'm out, y'all. I appreciate you. Nice chat with you, Hippocratic Oath. I'll go live when I can. Peace.